Christmas dinner at the family estate had always been grand, but this year carried an unusual tension. My parents had insisted on an early arrival for everyone, and my sister, Victoria, kept throwing me sly looks across the table, like she held a secret I wasn't supposed to know. Midway through dessert, Dad stood, wine glass in hand. "Family, we have an announcement," he began. "Your mother and I have made a major decision regarding the estate. The house, 8 bedrooms, 6 acres, worth about $2.3 million, where 3 generations of our family have lived, will now be Victoria's wedding gift. She and Marcus need a home of their own to start their life together, so we're giving it to them." I lowered my fork, stunned. Applause erupted around the table, and Victoria stood immediately, hugging our parents with a radiant smile. "The paperwork is already being prepared," Mom added. "The deed will transfer after New Year's. Victoria and Marcus can move in by February." "And what about Harper?" Aunt Susan asked, casting a glance my way. "Harper has her career," Dad said dismissively. "She's doing well with her consulting business. She doesn't need any family property. My consulting firm brought in $890,000 a year, but Dad had never respected it because I ran it from home in yoga pants instead of a corner office in a suit." "She can visit any time," Victoria said kindly. "Maybe even use the guest house when she's in town." I set my fork down carefully. "Use the guest house, on the property I've been quietly paying for? Congratulations, Victoria. That's an impressive gift." "Thanks," she said, oblivious to the edge in my tone. "I know you understand, you're always traveling anyway. You'd never really use this place." My phone buzzed. A text from my attorney, deed transfer recorded. "You're officially the sole owner. Merry Christmas." I sipped my wine, smiling. "Dad, can we speak privately after dinner?" I asked. "If this is about the estate, it's final," he said firmly. "Oh, it is about the estate, but I think you'll want to hear this in private." Later, I sat with my parents in Dad's study, Victoria and Marcus lingering nearby. "If you're here to argue about Victoria getting the house, save your breath," Mom said. "It's decided. She's starting a family, and the estate is hers." "I completely agree," I said. "Family homes should stay in the family. That's why I bought it." Victoria blinked. "Bought what?" "The estate," I said. "I purchased it from Mom and Dad 2 years ago." Silence. "That's impossible," Dad said. "Actually, it's very possible. We've owned this home for 35 years. You owned it until December 2021, then sold it to me for $1.2 million. I have the deed, wire transfers, and signed purchase agreement." Mom's face drained of color. "We never sold you anything." I opened my phone. November 15, 2021. Dad called, saying the reverse mortgage was overdue, 6 payments missed. The bank was about to foreclose. "We handled that," Dad protested. "I handled that. I paid off the $847,000 owed, then bought the house from you for $1.2 million. You stayed as my guests, rent-free." Victoria's eyes widened. "Why wouldn't you tell us?" I did. I explained everything at a family meeting 2 years ago. Dad froze. "I remember saying, 'Whatever you think is best, Harper,' and asking if you'd refill my wine." Mom nodded silently. "I told him it all sounded complicated." "I don't remember that," Mom said weakly. "I know," I said. "You didn't want to remember that you'd been passed over for the promotion. So you convinced yourselves it never happened." Victoria stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. You're making this up to ruin my celebration." "I'm not making it up." I pulled up the official notice on my phone. Recorded February 12, 2023. Promotion officially approved. Title transferred, Victoria Chen, Senior Director. Sole recipient. Dad adjusted his glasses and stared at my phone. His face fell as he read. You actually got it, he whispered. I actually made sure you got it. You were overlooked for months. I intervened to ensure HR recognized your achievement. So, you handled the promotion? Victoria asked slowly, confusion and horror flashing across her face. I handled it. You've been celebrating as if it was automatically yours, but the approval came because I advocated for you. Advocated? Mom repeated faintly. HR recorded it officially because I pushed for it behind the scenes. I ensured everything was processed, including salary adjustments and perks, $18,000 annual increase, without you even knowing. Marcus spoke up for the first time. So, this isn't just something the company decided on its own? Exactly, I said. Victoria didn't earn it automatically, it required action. Someone had to make sure she got what she deserved. Victoria's face was flushing. You let me plan my announcement. You let me tell Marcus and the family this was already mine. You congratulated me. I congratulated you on the achievement itself, not on the logistics, I said. I wanted to see how far you'd go assuming it was automatic, how far we'd all go believing it was handed to you without effort. Dad stood angrily. Harper, this is a major milestone in Victoria's career. This is a milestone I made possible behind the scenes. There's a difference. Mom asked, why didn't you stop us from celebrating it as a given? Because I needed you to understand. You weren't just assuming she'd get a title. You were celebrating a promotion that required work, and someone quietly making it happen without realizing it. We assumed, Dad said. You assumed. And you know what happens when you assume? You announced at the holiday dinner that Victoria was promoted, without confirming the details with HR or me. Victoria was tearing up now. What do I tell Marcus? Tell everyone the truth, I said calmly. Your parents assumed the promotion was automatic. You were celebrating it early. It happens. This is not a failure, it's just how things went behind the scenes. She turned to me. You should have reminded us you were handling it. I did remind you multiple times. Last year, I mentioned I was in contact with HR about your evaluation. Dad said, that's nice, and motioned for me to pass the appetizers. In June, I brought up training sessions and leadership assessments for your promotion. Mom added, do what you think is best, while showing me Victoria's work portfolio. That's not the same as saying you were securing it, Victoria insisted. It is, I said. September, at your engagement party, I told you, I'm glad we could celebrate your new role. You said it was already yours, and I walked away to greet the guests. The study was silent except for Victoria's soft sobs. So, what now? Marcus asked quietly. We move forward as planned. The promotion is official. You can celebrate, you can announce it, you can take on the new responsibilities, but understand that it required action behind the scenes. I've ensured your success, but this isn't automatic. What about us? Mom asked. Do we have to step aside? No, you can be proud, support her, and celebrate. You're part of this journey. Just don't claim it was automatic, it was hard work, and someone helped make it real. Dad sank back into his chair. I still don't understand how we forgot you were managing this. You didn't forget, I said. You rewrote history because the truth was uncomfortable. Victoria's achievement required more than luck. It required someone stepping up. Having your daughter rescue you, that didn't fit the story you'd told yourselves. So, you reshaped it. And you just let us live with that? Mom said, her voice sharp. I let you stay in a home I actually owned. I didn't correct your misconceptions because they weren't hurting anyone, until tonight, when you tried to hand my property to Victoria. Victoria sprang up. I can't do this. Marcus, let's go. Victoria, wait, Mom started. No. This night is ruined. Everyone downstairs thinks I'm getting my way, but all I'm feeling is humiliation. They left, Victoria's sobs trailing down the hallway. You really couldn't just let her have it? Dad asked quietly. Let her have my house? Absolutely not. The rest of Christmas dinner passed in a tense silence. Victoria and Marcus didn't return, and the remaining guests hesitated, asking questions that no one wanted to answer. I lingered just long enough to be polite, then excused myself to the guest house, the one on my property. My phone buzzed relentlessly with texts from Victoria. You ruined everything. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Mom and Dad are devastated. I ignored them all. The next morning, Dad knocked on my door. Can we talk? I let him in. He looked drained, older than I'd ever seen him. I found the sale documents, he said softly. You were right. We signed everything. We knew the house was sold. I know. I guess, we just didn't want to accept it. So we pretended it hadn't happened. Mom's heartbroken. Victoria won't answer her calls. She'll get over it when she realizes she needs to find her own place. Dad sank onto the couch. So, what now? You keep living here. I keep paying the bills. Nothing changes, except now the truth is out. You're not kicking us out? Why would I? I bought the house to save you from losing it. That goal hasn't changed because Victoria threw a tantrum. She's embarrassed, Dad said. She told everyone she was getting the estate. Then she'll learn you can't claim something that isn't yours. He nodded slowly. Thank you. For saving the house, for letting us stay, and for not rubbing it in, until it became unavoidable. You're welcome. After he left, I sat quietly in the guest house, the one I'd purchased to protect my parents from their own financial mistakes. They'd tried to give it away because admitting the truth meant admitting failure, and I'd succeeded where they hadn't. 2 weeks later, Victoria called. I'm sorry, she said stiffly. I shouldn't have assumed the house was mine. No, you shouldn't have. Can Marcus and I still have the wedding reception there? Yes. As my guests, not the owners. Right. As your guests. She hung up quickly, still struggling to accept reality. My parents remained in the main house. I stayed in the guest house when visiting. Taxes were paid. Utilities ran. Maintenance continued. Everything was the same, except now everyone knew who truly owned the estate. My mansion. My deed. My property, which my family had tried to give away without permission. They learned the expensive lesson: you can't give away what you don't own, no matter how much you wish you could. And I learned that sometimes the only way to enforce boundaries is to let people cross them fully, then show them exactly where the line is. The deed was recorded. Ownership was clear. The estate belonged to the person who had saved it.